With that, I'd like to turn it over to Representative Jay Edwards to come up and say a few words. Representative?
Thank you, Governor. First, I'd like to thank Governor McKee for having the strength to sign this piece of legislation, and especially to all of my co-sponsors, especially Representative Kislak, who brought this bill to me and who was instrumental in helping me get it across the finish line in the House of Representatives. This is, as the Governor said, a very common sense, straightforward piece of legislation that will help people with a normal problem. Having a non-gender specific bathroom is something that all of us can use, especially people in the LGBTQ community. This just makes common sense. As Senator Murray and I were just discussing, of all the pieces of legislation I've had this year, this was probably the most common sense, one of the easiest ones for me as a person to put forward and to work on. And it makes just great sense for Rhode Island, and I'm proud to be a sponsor, and I'm proud of Rhode Island for passing this. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce now my sponsor in the Senate, Senator Murray.
Thank you so much, Rep. Edwards, and thank you to Youth Pride for hosting this bill signing. No one should have to worry about their health or safety simply because they need to use the toilet. This bill was about so much more than simply changing a sign on the door. It's a sad fact that transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people have faced taunting, threats, and even violence for using the so-called wrong bathroom. We heard many of these very personal stories during committee hearings, and I want to personally thank those individuals that publicly shared those painful experiences. This law will not only help make trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks feel safer in public spaces, it also provides real health benefits for everyone. Because gender-inclusive bathrooms benefit gender-conforming people too. They're easier for families with children and people with medical conditions, and helpful for people with disabilities who have other gender caregivers. I'm excited that we were able to pass this legislation into law, and I thank the many advocates, organizations, and as well as my colleagues and the Governor for your support. And I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Senator Coleman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murray, and to the Governor and all of my colleagues and community organizations who are here today. I am really, really delighted to be here. I'm talking about the other bill, to witness the signing into law of an additional measure. This one is aimed at keeping Rhode Islanders in safe housing and free from discrimination. After today, sexual orientation and gender identity will no longer be valid reasons to discriminate against potential tenants. Not that it ever was a valid reason, but it was a legal reason. This has clearly been a year when the need for safe housing has been at the forefront of everybody's minds. It's a deeply personal issue to me for several reasons. Research also shows that a disproportionate number of homeless youth in the U.S. are LGBTQ+. LGBTQ+ adults are also at disproportionate risk for experiencing homelessness, and both trans adults and trans children are at disproportionately high risk. According to the Williams Institute at UCLA, 17% of LGBTQ+ people have reported experiencing homelessness at some point in their lifetime. This is compared to about 6% of the general population. Especially in the context of a pandemic like the one we are living through, it's abundantly clear that safe and healthy and affordable homes are critical to mental and physical health. They're critical to success in school and work, and the ability to keep oneself well generally. So removing discriminatory barriers to obtaining housing, like we are doing today, is a crucial step in ensuring access to housing. In addition to the community groups who have been mentioned, who are amazing, I would like to give a particular shout out to the Rhode Island Commission on Human Rights. I believe they have a representative here today, who first approached me with this issue, as well as to my co-sponsor in the House, who I'm really pleased to introduce now, Representative Edith Agello.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, all of you. And I thank my colleagues in the House of Representatives for getting up behind this. And I want to thank Wendy Becker, who a long time ago, when I first thought of running, I talked with Wendy, and Wendy asked me then to introduce legislation repealing Rhode Island's sodomy law, because she and Mary, her partner, wanted to adopt children, and they were worried that the sodomy law might get in the way of their adopting children. I took that legislation on and was pleased to see the sodomy law erased from the books. But there's been other work since then. And in 1995, Rhode Island actually did do housing discrimination legislation regarding LGBT people, but it exempted owner-occupied 3- and 2-family houses, as if that's somehow different and not discrimination or tolerable discrimination. This legislation the governor will sign today it erases that exemption, and it also erases some language that I'm really embarrassed to be a part of a General Assembly that passed in 1995 regarding discrimination, and I want to read it because it's so good to have it be gone. The term sexual orientation means having or being perceived as having an orientation for heterosexuality, bisexuality, or homosexuality. That stays in there. What comes out is this definition is intended to describe the status of persons and does not render lawful any conduct prohibited by the criminal laws of the state, nor impose any duty on a religious organization. This definition does not confer legislative approval of said status, but is intended to ensure the basic human rights of persons to hold and convey property and to give and obtain credit regardless of such status. Can you imagine that sort of language being used about anyone, any group of people in this day and age? It's taken a while, 1995 to 2021, but we're getting rid of it. And I want to thank everybody involved in getting that done. And particularly, I want to thank Wendy Becker for getting behind this as she's been behind so much. Thank you all.
Good. There you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Galen Auer, and I am a volunteer with LGBTQ Action RI, one of the groups that worked on this bill. I want to start off by thanking everyone who was involved. It's a long list, so I can't name everyone, but especially thank you, of course, to Senators Murray and Coleman and Reps Edwards and Aiello for your championship of these very important bills. I want to thank all the orgs that contributed, including the Commission on Human Rights, YPI, TGI Network. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, GLAD. There's a long list, and like I said, I can't name them all. And of course, Governor McKee for signing these bills into law today. And I really want to thank, actually, Representative Aiello for the history that she mentioned, because it's on days like today that I'm most reminded of how far we've come. I think of Belle Pellegrino, I think of Dennis Souza, and the other 76ers, as they call themselves, who marched in Providence's first Pride Parade in 1976, even after state and city officials tried to block that parade from happening. And it gives me hope to see the governor of Rhode Island sign bills like this into law, removing barriers that transgender people like myself face every day in simply trying to use the restroom or finding a place to live. But it also gives me courage, because I know that we don't have the luxury of resting on our laurels. As far as we've come, I can't help but think about all the people who still aren't able to fully share in the progress that we've made. I think of Ziri Moore, a black transgender woman who was harassed because of her identity by a police officer here in Rhode Island just a few weeks ago. I think of the 31 transgender siblings of mine who have died so far this year across the country, making 2021 on course to be the most violent for transgender people in some time. And as important as these bills are, and please don't think that they're not important, I know that they couldn't have protected those people. And the truth is that there's probably no law that could have protected them, because we can't make a law to erase discrimination and bigotry from the hearts and minds of people who commit those sorts of acts. But as a community, we've proven that we can come together and do great things and make great progress. And so I want to thank everyone again who was a part of this in any way. And I want to challenge everyone here to continue thinking of how, as a community, we can work towards including everyone in our vision of progress, how we can help to remove the things that place transgender and LGBTQ+ people in danger. There's still so much left to do, but I'm grateful for days like today where we get to celebrate. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Monique Paul, who is the Board Vice President of TGI Network.
Thank you, Governor McKee. Thank you, YPI, for donating this wonderful space. My name is Monique Paul, and I am the Vice President on the Board of Directors for TGI Network of Rhode Island. I am excited to be here for the signing of these historic bills. We are grateful for the leadership of the legislators who worked on behalf of our community. In particular, we want to thank Representative Edwards and Senator Murray. I want to thank the Commission on Prejudice and Bias for their leadership on housing discrimination. And I want to thank the LGBTQ Action RI and GLAD for their work on both bills, but especially their commitment to bringing the gender-neutral restroom bill